It's a beautiful Saturday, and we are here to give you nothing but the best in terms of sports. And when I say sports, I mean the coverage of local leagues. That's the FAS, MTN Super League, and the Eden Division Super League, which is an interesting league as well. But anyway, all in all, this is a beautiful Saturday. The weather is so warm and cool and collected, I might say. And welcome to Off the Pitch. I'm your host, Amos, aka Amore, and I'm not alone on set. I'm joined by Uncle Rapson and Augustine. Augustine, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Amos. We return all the glory and honor to the Most High God for the gift of life and good health. The football family is mourning the passing on of Moses Maplang. I think it's very, very painful loss. He was a very, very talented goalkeeper, and we would like to pass our condolences as Cabinet TV to the entire Maplanga family.
Uncle Rapson.
Of course, and the football fraternity at large.
Exactly.
A very, very sad week it has been. Moses Maplanga is one player who's represented the country at the highest level as well, and may his soul rest in peace. And to our dear viewers who are just joining us, would like to thank you for joining us this wonderful morning as we give you nothing but the best of sport. And this is Off the Pitch, and we are here to give you everything that you need to know about the Zambian Super League, Eden, as well as the European sports. Time permitting, we'll touch some European sports. There are some FA Cups. Some shocking results from last night, so it's a very, very bad week for me actually.
Yeah, I know it's a very bad week for a lot of us. But anyway, our warm, deepest condolences to the Mapulanga family. Hope they stay strong as they pass through this hard time. But anyway, we'll just take a very, very short break, and we'll be right back to take a look at what happened within the course of the week in terms of the Africa Cup of Nations and the teams that are playing the final and the third and fourth. We'll take a short break.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Cabinet Channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
We celebrate. For all you've done, Lord, we give you all the praise. Oh, we testify. We celebrate. Oh, for all you've done, Lord, we give you all the praise.
From 31st January to 6th February 2022, Zambia's spiritual atmosphere will take a paradigm shift. The Bible says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord."
Zambia, a nation under God conference
Will be starting at 20:45 hours
to 22:30 hours.
live on Cabinet TV channel 274 on DSTV, GoTV channel 98 and Topstar channel 106.
Speakers will be
Bishop Stanley Siminyola, Grace Ministries;
Dr. Nevas Mumba, Victory Ministries;
Apostle Michael Mutemwa from South Africa;
Bishop Nelly Chikwanda, New Life Christian Center;
Apostle Rick Kamwanga, Risen Life Church International;
Bishop Joy Makando, Bread of Life;
Bishop Alex Mwami of Holy Ghost Firehouse from South Africa; and your hosts, Pastors Victoria and Moses Chilua.
Hamnet Television.
Not just another channel. Cabinet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Cabinet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Cabinet TV app. With Cabinet TV app, you only use less bundles. Cabinet TV, not just another channel.
You know, one funny comment that I saw on social media was a comment to say even a former footballer who is the who is the sports president in Cameroon failed to deliver the AFCON, and we saw a very bad week come to an end for Cameroon, where they were beaten in 2 post-match penalties by Egypt.
Well, that was a very, very tricky encounter from the very, very beginning. Of course, all odds were for Cameroon managing to salvage something out of that game during the 90 minutes. But we saw a very, very resilient Egypt, very, very focused, very, very organized in defense, For me, their goalkeeper was fantastic on the day, and that is one goalkeeper who, in the previous game, we saw him limping, and you could tell that this guy has got a lot of passion for the game, and getting into that extra time, getting into those penalty shootouts, I think for me the goalkeeper is the biggest hero of the Egyptian side on the night of Thursday. For Cameroon, Samuel Eto'o did everything that they could. We saw some tricky comments talking about how COVID is attacking their opponents week in, week out, but it wasn't the case on the day, and I think for me that was one of the best games that I've ever watched. It was a very, very boring encounter at some point. I think the first half was neither here nor there, but interesting thing is that the penalty shootouts, I was even wondering whether those guys are real professionals or not, because the way they were taking penalties is like you're playing a friendly game and you just decide to say, okay, let me try this kind of kicking and see what happens to it. But kudos to the Egyptian national soccer team for making it to the finals. It won't be an easy final where two Liverpool legends will be meeting one another, and one of them is definitely going to lift the trophy because the other one is captain on this side, the other one is captain on the other side. So it will be a very, very interesting final to watch tomorrow.
Looking at a lot of people commented to say they were expecting Mo Salah to be the hero of the Egypt national team, but the two games that were played, that's the quarterfinal and the semi-final, we saw is it Gabaski, their keeper, coming to the limelight. But Augustine, like Angorapson has said, would you say Cameroon wasn't ready, or they thought that the game would just end in 90 minutes? Because those penalties that were taken there, it's more of someone wasn't expecting that it would reach that far.
Yeah, if you look at the game, the way the balance of play, I think looking at it, the entire AFCON, the way it has been played, Egypt tends to grow in the second half of games. In the first half, they are slow start, as if you observed. So Cameroon should have capitalized that and killed off the game in the first half, because in the second half they grew in confidence. You could see their defensive shape. They are very, very organized. They didn't give away many chances in the second half like they did in the first half. I think the Cameroon centre back had two gilt-edge opportunities that he should have buried and take Cameroon to the final. But you could see that the Egyptians tactically, they were very, very, very brave. The way they defended their box, they defended it very well, and their goalkeeper was very, very outstanding. Mo Salah, I think, wanted to play with space in behind, to run in for space in behind. He wanted the Cameroon backline to push her up the field. With the record wanting on one occasion where Onana came out and saved the day for Cameroon. When you are playing at home, games, whenever the longer you take to score, the more pressure. I think the penalties, were something which Cameroon should have avoided, being the home nations, because penalties, they come with a lot of pressure. I think Egyptians went into those penalty shootouts without any pressure. You could see the way they are taking the penalties, and I was surprised with Cameroon, like Angorapson said. How on earth do you take penalties like that? Clinton J, a penalty which was supposed to give you enough life to keep you in that penalty shootout, and how do you take 2 steps backwards? Maybe that was one step backwards.
Remember what
that you can score those penalties when there's no pressure, maybe in league games, or maybe you're winning games.
Even in the match where we are leading by 3 goals to 0, you have that kind of a penalty, you can go and make that kind
exactly,
of
but not on that occasion where it needed that penalty to stay in this penalty shootout. I think that was very much disappointing for Cameroon.
Then when you look at the question that you asked, to say pressure was expected to be on Mo Salah. And I think for me at that point, kudos to the coach Carlos Queiroz, because what he was avoiding, if you've noticed, in these games that Egypt has been playing, he's tried his best as a coach to make sure that the load is not on Mo Salah. Even on penalties, he's been taking the last ones all the time. Even this particular one, he was destined to take the 5th one, which never came to pass because they hammered them before the 5th one. So when you get a very big player with a very big name, you try to avoid pressure, exerting pressure on a player, because everybody else in the team will begin to think that you are probably appreciating one player in the team than the rest of us. So what the coach was doing there is really remove a lot of pressure from Mo Salah. He was playing very deep. He was only attacking once in a while. When he goes, It's a proper attack. But most of the time, you would see him play, release the ball, play, release the ball. When it comes to penalties, remove the pressure off him, you'll be the last one to take. Who's having the pressure? The first one, second one. Because when these miss in front, just know that
There's no chance. Yeah.
So you find that the best players who should take the penalties at the very beginning, those are the ones that you put at the end. What are you doing? We are trying to give confidence to the other players to say, we are believing in you guys, you can also do it. This guy that you all think is the best penalty taker, even for Liverpool where he's coming from, he's going to take the last one. So the belief gets into the players. They start beginning to feel part of the team, to feel part of the victory that is expected. And that's exactly how those penalties were taken. And Egypt was on point. Very, very on point on penalties.
Let's look at the performance, Augustine. Just a quick one on Trezeguet. I felt like for me he was one of the best standard players that performed in both games, the Morocco game and the Cameroon game.
If you could see the way Carlos Queiroz handles his team, Trezeguet is that one secret weapon he keeps on the bench. I think you've seen him in the past two games. He's introducing him immediately after halftime because he needs him to come into the game whereby the defenders are getting a little bit tired, because he's a very, very direct player. He runs at people. I think he's a very, very impact player for Egypt, and they should keep it that way going into the final, because probably they may start him and it may not work out for him. And I think I should also point out the fact that two midfielders in Elneny and Fati were very, very crucial to that Egyptian victory, because they protect their back four very, very well, and they've been very exceptional playing as a two, because Fati plays for Orali and he's been doing very well in that central midfield, and you can see the understanding with Elneny. He's not given a lot of responsibility like in the early games of the tournament, because they were just playing Elneny as a 1-6 holding midfielder, and he found a lot of pressure, especially in the game against Nigeria. But you can see the coach understood that Elneny will need a little bit of help in that central midfield, and they brought in Fati, and he's done very well, to be honest.
How are you looking at the game, Ango Rapson, that's being played? That's Cameroon hosting Burkina Faso. Is it going to be an easy encounter for them?
This is an encounter where every coach that is getting to this stage, you are playing for silver. I mean, not silver, sorry, bronze. Because silver is the second one, bronze is the first one. So you are playing for bronze. And when you are playing for bronze, the first thing that comes to every coach is, let me also take the opportunity to use the players who have never played in the tournament. Remember that they are 23, I think they were allowed to register how many? Was it 25? 25. Something like that. So you find that the coach now gets to a stage to say, let me rest all the players that have been playing week in, week out during the course of the tournament. So chance might be given to those that have been sitting on the bench throughout. The Burkinabes might also take that path to say, let everybody have a feel of the AFCON. They are probably youngsters who were carried. They've never had that experience to play. All the games had pressure, so they were probably being put on the bench, and now probably the coach would decide to size the youngsters up there. So it would be a very, very tricky encounter, really, even for Cameroon, because the Burkinabes, they died strong. They died with their heads high when they were beaten by Senegal, and I think getting into this game, fighting for bronze, it would be a very, very tricky encounter. And I don't think Cisse is going to field a very, very strong side. Of course, he will want to field a very, I mean, no, not Cisse.
Not Cisse.
I'm talking about the
Cisse is tomorrow.
Cisse is tomorrow. So I doubt if he's going to field a very, very strong side. Why? Because he also wants to use the other players. But at the same time, the respect they have for bronze, because now they need to keep their fans smiling. They have to do something. They have to deliver something, and they only have this afternoon to deliver. So probably to be a very, very tricky encounter. But I think the Burkinabes will have an advantage over Cameroon, because Cameroon is still shocked. They are still in shock. Probably if they have very good psychologists in the squad, the best is to sack the players and make them believe again in themselves. Because once you drop at that level of football from the semi-finals, you get to start playing third and fourth. The morale, the confidence gets very, very low in the squad.
A quick one, Augustine, on tomorrow's final. That's Mo Salah versus Mane, as people would call it. Liverpool against Liverpool.
I think the sad part about the final is that whoever loses will lose it for the second time. Because Salah has lost the final against Cameroon, Mane lost it against Algeria. So I think to me it will be painful because one of these two guys, probably one of the best Africans, will never win the Africa Cup of Nations, and it will be one disappointing fact. But if I look at
too
it,
young, they can win it again.
Zambia is coming, so you have to be very quick. So I like that for the next countries, because now you look at a situation whereby this golden generation of Senegal, probably this is their last opportunity. We saw that with Ivory Coast, and they took full advantage when they played Ghana. Now it has come to Senegal. This is the time. I think the likes of Bunasa playing for Bayern Munich, Sadio Mane for Liverpool, Cheko Konaite for Crystal Palace. They've got enough experience and wealth in that team. I think they have not won the Africa Cup, Senegal, in their history. This is their chance. I think Egypt have won it a couple of times. If they lose it, it won't be as painful as it will be for Senegal losing it again. Aliou Cisse has gone close as a player. He's gone close as a coach. Can he take them to the next level? I hope he does that. It's going to be a very, very tactical game. It's going to be very cagey, because Senegal, in the last two games, I think they have looked better when they've played Sadio Mane as a withdrawn striker. He's finding those little pockets of space and creating that link between the midfield and the attack, and he's been very, very creative, very, very dangerous. It will be difficult for Egypt to handle his pressure, but Egyptians, you know the way North Africans play, they'll soak up pressure, try to hit them on the counter. It can go either way. It's going to be a tricky game, but I fancy Senegal.
Anyway, just stay glued to the TV, to your television sets tomorrow, as the Egyptians will be playing against Senegalese, who is going to carry the day. The team that hasn't won it and the team that has won it for about 7 times. So hopefully we'll see a triumph. But then coming back to our local league, we saw a very, very busy transfer market, where we saw people, or where we saw clubs coming in and sneaking in the last minute of the hour, where we saw Collins Isikombe being scooped by Zesco United. Something that we didn't expect. How would you rate the market, the window market?
Well, I think it's been very, very busy, and the biggest losers in this transfer window is Lusaka Dynamos, actually, because probably 70% of all their players who played the first half of the season have gone, and now they are relying on free agents to join them and fulfill the remaining fixtures. And it's a very, very sorry sight, and I think the move that you are talking about, before we come to other clubs and how their players have moved, I think Collins Isikombe was on the verge of joining Ghana Football Club, and Zesco United were very swift. Nkana was busy trying to train with, he trained actually with Nkana, I'm told. He trained with them 1-2 times, and documents, stories started. But I think the Swift Club, Zesco United, managed to get the experienced Collins Isikombe. But again, when you look at Collins Isikombe's style of play and the midfielders that Zesco United have, I'm waiting to see how he's going to fit in that squad. Very, very eager to wait to see how he's going to fit in the squad, because Zesco United have a very, very formidable midfield at the moment. Very, very formidable young lads in that team, and to bring experience, they have too many experienced players. I'm sure it's an issue of balancing the old and the young, and I think in that front, Numba has done very, very well amongst all the amongst many coaches in the country. I think he has managed to blend the young and the old very, very well. You will see at some point there's a very, very senior striker in Winston Kalengo playing number 9. The young ones, Vena Pedro, these guys are still sitting on the bench. You are able to see that these are there to learn from the experience of the players they have. And Collins Isikombe is going to add that value in the distribution of the ball in that middle of the pack for Zesco United Football Club this season.
Augustine, I think he's going to be a very good addition for Zesco United. If he can replicate the form that he showed at Napsa Stars, that would be very, very key, because at Lusaka Dynamos, he hasn't done very well, to be honest. So if you look at the signings that Zesco United have made, yes, they're impressive signings, but it shows you that the club of Zesco United stature didn't plan well at the start of the season, because there's no way a big club like Zesco United will go in big in the mid-season transfer market. I think, to me, most clubs always avoid to sign players in mid-season, because when you're signing players in mid-season, like 5-6 players, meaning he did something wrong at the start of the season, and that's clear with what ZSK United is doing. They didn't do their business well at the start of the season. Their planning wasn't on point. I think it's interesting to see how Colin Sikombe will go into this ZSK United side and fit in. They've already acquired the services of Spencer South at the start of the season. They've got Kelvin Kampamba Muanga. Now they're going to add in a Colin Sikombe. Then you add in a John Chingandu. Meaning, if you are going to play all these, meaning you'll be left open in terms of defending. I think they signed another young lad from City of Lusaka. Is it Francis Banda? A very good and decent midfielder. He's very good on the ball. He's good when it comes to recycling the ball. He gets on the ball very well. Probably right back, they have brought in Shenimi Maembe. Back at ZSK United, it's an area whereby Mukandawiri I haven't been very much convinced with his performances at ZSK United. Is he the kind of player who should be playing for ZSK United? Yes, maybe as a deputy to someone. Shemi Mande will go in, probably will fill in that right back position. I think there's another signing. Is it Vincent Oburu from Kenya? We haven't seen much of him. He hasn't come with a lot of hype, but I hope he's a very decent player. I haven't seen much of him, to be honest.
He's got a very good agent.
Exactly. It's the same with the big centre back they signed from Sudan. It hasn't happened for him. He's found this league to be very, very tight, and
that's how it is good for basketball.
Exactly. It's good for football. So we just hope to see a difference ZSK United coming in the second round of the season. Pedro Miguel, is it the answer to their problems? I don't think so. So there are a lot of questions in this transfer market for ZSK United. Yes, they've brought in players, but are they the right fit? That's the biggest question, and the answers will come in the next.
But the beauty about ZSK United, just to sum up your conversation, is whether they are still trying to find their best fit, they are grinding results.
That's the biggest.
They are not winning by 2 goals, they are not winning by 3. Just one goal is enough. So for me, even as much as they are doing a lot of work in training to make a formidable squad, on match day they are grinding results. And I think for me, with time, there will be a very, very formidable squad. They're very, very forced to reckon with when it comes to local football.
Let's look at Red Diamonds, Augustine. We've seen Uncle Rapson earlier before we started the show saying they would rather today someone donates points or someone loses points. But let's look at how they went in their market. We saw them bringing in one Joseph Sabobo Banda in Twiza Chaiwela, but they also allowed certain good players to go on loan. But how would you rate their buying and selling?
I think if you look at Red Diamonds, the transfer market, I think they have been very happy because they brought in a young Joseph Sabobo Banda, who is probably one of the bright future prospects of Zambian football. He's coming in to gain a lot of Premier League experience, probably will see him move to Europe. Yeah. And the coming in of Twiza Chaiwela, it gives a lot of options in terms of wide areas. He can play as a wide player, he can play down the middle. They've let go of Stanley Shimbi. He didn't see any game time this season. He just had to move on to Mukola Blaze and get some game time. They've released Joseph Lungu, who's going to NAPSA. Again, he needed game time. He wanted to be playing more football, which he wasn't seeing at Red Arrows. And Felix Ulaya to Zanaco, I think he's one of those eye-catching transfers. Why did it happen? But I think to me it had to happen because Red Arrows at the moment do not need to have a divided dressing room, to be honest. If Felix Ulaya's head is not at the football club, why keep him? That was the question. I think to me, what I can say about Felix Ulaya is that he's having bad advisors. That's just one fact. You are playing for a team which is top of the league, and then you have got an opportunity to maybe win the league, have that on your CV, and then when a Foreign Cup comes calling, it's easy to say what I've achieved in football.
Is this?
He went to Power Dynamos at first, it didn't work out. He was forcing this move, to be honest. He went to Power Dynamos, it didn't work out. He wanted to turn up at ZSK United. Rumors said, the coaches said, we do not know who is Felix Ulaya, he would have to come for trials. That's what we heard from Ndola. Then he had to settle for Zanaco. So meaning this guy, he wasn't sure with what he really wanted in this transfer market. He just wanted the move out without knowing what he wants to achieve at the end of the day. But coming to Red Arrows,
it's what they simple. I think he was backing up his movement because of the beautiful performances that had happened in the recent past. And I think, like you have said, it's the advisors who are taking center stage in this whole thing, because he only came in the limelight for a very, very short time. Very short time. He played some good football. He scored some beautiful goals. I remember the one that he scored at Nkrumah Stadium against the Green Eagles. It's from that point that he started building his castles in the air.
He even saw some national team collapse.
He started building his castles in the air, and where still he was given an opportunity to join the national team. And at that point, that was the beginning of his downfall at Red Arrows. Probably it's an issue of going for training and you think you've made it in life and all that kind of thing. But over and above that, I think I love the discipline at Red Arrows. He's a very, very good player that on paper, if you are discussing why he has left, everybody who just watches football without applying science to it might think Red Arrows haven't done a good job in letting him go. But I think technically, we have seen that even without him, the discipline levels at that club are very good and they are winning games. So the question is, who's making a wrong choice of movement? It's probably the player. And we leave it there. But congratulations for getting Joseph. Joseph is a very good player. That young lad who had a lot of value, except his body stature
is small for the
Premier League games.
Yeah, they are
I'm yet to see what he's going to do in there.
So you look at
you can't write him off. He's a very good boy, very good player. He's run rings around defenders in provincial football, and I think if he can replicate that in the Premier League, then we have a young lad who's going to fly into Europe very, very soon. And the guys joining Red Arrows to go and get a bit of some experience there, exposure to Premier League football, so that when it's time to move, he's got a rich CV, which talks about and he's joining the club at a very good time. He's going to have his first medal of the Zambian Super League from Red Arrows.
Now I'm glad that you know.
Yeah, at this point, really, Red Arrows, I can't write them off, and I can't even doubt it's theirs to throw away. And they are very, very compact, actually. And the way they rotate players, they are managing fatigue in the players. And health competition. This week you find Capson Kamanga is playing 3 fantastic football. Next week there's Prosper Chubera, fantastic football. You begin to wonder, are we going to have a team that is going to break down these guys? We are yet to see that, but I think my money is on Konkola Blades. one tap shot is going to cause damage this afternoon.
Do you know what happened last week? His money was on GBFC and there's a phone which was involved.
Did you get your phone?
I gave it away.
He lost it because he put his phone on GBFC. And
I was donating that
interestingly enough, in this transfer market, I think we saw Kansashi Dynamos go big in the transfer market. They brought in Babo Baside, they brought in Jesse Jackson, Marvin Jerry, and the other guy was
the biggest buy.
And that's what I was coming to, because if you look at when these guys came in, still Kansashi haven't won a game in the second round. Now they've brought in Boyd Murwanda. Probably is going to be the biggest signing for them this season to keep them up this season, because they have been found wanting defensively. They are out of sorts. He needs to work on their shape. He needs to work on that defensive shape. We did very well at Buildcon. It's something which a lot of people do not talk about. But Buildcon was struggling and he did very well at
Buildcon club was actually formed. 80% of the players who are playing now, that is Boyd Murwanda's collection in off-season. The ones who played the previous season, there was a mass exodus of players from them before the start of the season. Mass exodus of players. So he's a very, very good coach. The biggest signing that I'm very disappointed with is from Cabo Warriors, signing Takatiko. The man has been given a 1-match ultimatum today. So it's an issue of GBFC. Oh, by the way, Cabo Warriors is hosting GBFC. So Mr. Takatiko has been given a 1-match ultimatum against GBFC. On the other side, there is an ultimatum on Justin Chinama. 3 games. He begins his 3 games on Cabo Warriors. So it's ultimatum. This is ultimatum. One of them has to go.
And if you see, there's already changes at the GBFC technical bench, which hasn't yet been announced by the football club, but I believe Felix Katongo is in.
No, they have announced.
They have announced Felix Katongo is in, and the goal.
The team manager, they changed the team manager.
There has been some changes. Now it puts pressure on the head coach, because they've changed the guys behind you. Now you are the next guy they are hunting down. It's going to be very, very tricky. I think one signing which I wanted to see during this transfer market was Miguel Chaiwa. To be honest, I thought Miguel Chaiwa was going to make the move to the Super League. It didn't happen. I think he's returned at Atletico. From Chameo, he's returned at Atletico. He will play the second half at Atletico. But I hope to see the boy very soon back into the Premier League or going abroad.
You know, those are some of the transfers that took place within this course of last month, and before that we couldn't give the whole, but it's a very, very huge list. If possible, we'll just post it on our page, that's Off the Pitch page, and our Camnet TV page. For now, we'll just take a very short break as we come and take a look at the Eden League and the FAS MTN Super League. We'll just take a short break.
From 31st January to 6th February 2022, Zambia's spiritual atmosphere will take a paradigm shift. The Bible says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord."
Zambia, a nation under God conference
Will be starting at 20:45 hours
to 22:30 hours.
live on Camnet TV channel 274 on DSTV, GoTV channel 98, and Topstar channel 106.
Speakers will be
Bishop Stanley Simnyola, Grace Ministries;
Dr. Nevas Mumba, Victory Ministries;
Apostle Michael Mutemwa from South Africa;
Bishop Nelly Chikwanda, New Life Christian Center;
Apostle Rick Kamwanga, Risen Life Church International;
Bishop Joy Makando, Bread of Life;
Bishop Alex Mwami of Holy Ghost Firehouse from South Africa; and your hosts, Pastors Victoria and Moses Chilua.
Camnet Television.
Not just another channel. Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
The more the games are being played, that's in the Eden Super League, the more things are becoming more intense, because you know it's an issue of fighting for promotion. And last week we saw some interesting results that we never expected, where we saw NAPSA drawing and the others again drawing, where we were said if this win, this loses, the one drops points, the other one goes. But you know, just a quick one on the results that we saw last week in the first Eden League. We saw Young Buffaloes drawing against Young Green Eagles, and FC Mozart won by 4-0 against Police College. We saw Trident winning by 1-0 against Quattro Kalumbila, and we saw Zesco Malite Rangers drawing against Gomes Livingstone Pirates, drawing against Lumana Radiance, Kitwe United drawing against City of Lusaka, and Luapula Green Eagles drawing against NAPSA. Just a quick one, gentlemen. Are these the results that you expected from Lumana Radiance and NAPSA?
Well, those are things that we talked about on Saturday morning last week. I said distance is against them. These guys moved, I don't know how many kilometers from their base in Lumana into Livingstone, so player fatigue and everything else. But kudos to Livingstone Pirates. They are trying to get out of that zone. They are very deep, and I think it's a good point for them. They are trying to get out of that danger zone. But for Lumana Radiance, I think it's a tough call when you're leading the table and you're facing one of the sides that are neither here nor there in Livingstone Pirates. That result for me wasn't very surprising when you look at the distance. Coming to NAPSA Stars, I saw the pitch they were using, but I think we need to raise some standards. I had an opportunity to watch a video where they were playing against Luapula Green Eagles at Kaole Stadium. By the way, I was in Mansa, so I know that stadium. I spent my 5 years of secondary school in Mansa, so at St. Clements. So I know that place very well. But the pitch is something that they need to work on, really. You could see some patches. The pitch is not even. If you are viewing it from this side, one side is like it's on a hill and it slopes, and the type of football that Perimeter has inculcated in these young lads and playing on such surfaces, they did well to get a point. They did well to get a point. It's a very, very difficult hunting ground if you go to a pitch which is like that, and the owners of the pitch are the only ones who understand it. So to get a point away from home, I think it was a very, very big plus to NAPSA Stars.
Augustine, a quick one.
I think it was disappointing. I think if you look at the pitch, the condition, I think the Eden League is next to the Super League. I think the standard has to be perfect. I think it was a very disappointing pitch. They couldn't string passes, NAPSA Stars, because it was very, very difficult for them. In that game, we saw the debut for Joseph Lungu, who moved from Red Arrows, Jody Alba. I think I will give them some different dimension in that left back, because we saw NAPSA Stars struggle a bit in left back position. They use centre backs to play in that role. He's gone in now at NAPSA Stars. Lumana Radiance, frustrating result away in Livingstone. But if you remember last season, that was a slaughterhouse for many teams. Probably a point come the end of the season will prove to be vital for Lumana Radiance.
Let's just take a look at the games today. That's in the FAS Eden Super League. We've got NAPSA Stars and Raps on the team that you are supposed to go and cover at 13. They're playing Young Buffaloes. Maybe let's look at this one before we just go through the other games that are being played. How important is this game coming back from a draw and them knowing that if they sleep, Lumana Radiant go to that spot?
One thing I've liked about this particular game is it's being played at one of the best surfaces we have at the moment in the Super League at Woodland Stadium. And I'm only hoping that God will hold on to the reins so that the game of football can be flowing. And I think NAPSA Stars has an advantage there, because a lot of teams that have visited that particular stadium have gone back with nothing. Very few have gained a point from there. And I think when you look at the reverse fixture, I think NAPSA Stars be emerged victorious in that game. And getting into this one, I think the acquisition of Joseph Lungu as a left back, we all saw how on many occasions they would use Obeng right back. Then they get Gift Zulu, who plays right back. They go and fix him on the left back. Yeah. Why? Because they only had one Bono Slengo, who was like a landlord at left back. And at some point he got injured. He was out of the game. They kept on changing. They would put Luka on the left, put the other Luka Banda on the left, then Luka Nguni there, plus Odiambo. So that particular bit needed backup. And I think it's one of the best signings that we are ever going to experience in the Eden University League. And the game actually itself this afternoon, I'm fancying NAPSA Stars to beat Young Green Buffaloes, probably by a very long goal to nil.
We've got at 15 hours, we've got Mufulira Wanderers who will be hosting Livingstone Pirates, and we've got Gomes who is going to be hosting Wapula Green Eagles. We've got Kitwe United versus Trident, and another tricky encounter, Augustine, it's the one Lumana Radiants are hosting Changa Rangers.
In Changa Rangers, I think you never know which team will turn up. I think Changa Rangers always blowing hot and cold. I think they lack consistency. That's the biggest problem. In Changa Rangers, if they can put a good run of games together, I think they'll be up there challenging for the promotion places. But Lumana
3 and 4.
Yes,
should be specific.
3 and 4, because 1 and 2 are taken. Lumana Radiance, I think it's more of what NAPSA can do. We need to do better, because it's very, very tight at the top. If you drop points, you lose sight of your rivals. And the good part is that Lumana Radiance maintain most of the players they got relegated with. So they've got the experience of playing of games of high magnitude. They've got George Fekas who's getting them the goals. I think Lumana Radiance look very strong from Changa Rangers.
And Rapson, you also go for Lumana Radiance?
No, a big no. I think Changa Rangers, they've been a bit busy on the transfer market, and the acquisition of that boy Angel from City of Lusaka is going to be a major difference today.
Is that your favorite player?
Yeah, because I like the way he plays, and he plays very good football. That one, given any stage, whether it's at City of Lusaka, whether it's at a different club, I think the natural talent in that lad is what gives me an impression that Changa Rangers are very focused. And if they are tapping talent into such players with the ones that they already got, I am seeing this as a game that will stop Lumana Radiance and separate Lumana Radiance from NAPSA Stars this afternoon. But like Augustine has said, Lumana Radiance are also bouncing back from a goalless draw in Livingstone, and getting into this game, they know what is at stake. So they are also, their guns will be blazing towards the Nchanga Rangers, and it's not easy when Lumwana Radiance is at home. So it will be a very, very tricky encounter for both teams. And Nchanga Rangers, they've made that trip. The question is, will they come back with nothing?
Tomorrow. And lastly today we've got Young Green Eagles versus Muza, and tomorrow the 6th of February we've got Police College versus Kaisa, City of Lusaka versus Eskomalaiti, Jumulo versus Quattro Kalumbira. But anyway, just a quick one on City of Lusaka versus Eskomalaiti, teams that have been neither here nor there.
Well, I think that game, if I'm not mistaken, will be played this afternoon. I'm not very sure, because there should be a double header at Woodland Stadium. So the second game could be City of Lusaka.
This is Zesco.
Yeah, I think it has been to today, and we've seen some changes that were made at City of Lusaka. Rizal, but his own one traveled to Kitwe. I think he was out of the bench. Suspended because of a red card. They went and drew against Kitwe United. You can tell that they are making a very, very good positive start to his reign. The only thing I spoke about last week, and I will not say it again, so he just needs to work on his attitude and his temperament.
Augustine.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky game. Eskomalaiti, they have been struggling. I think they need to put their house in order and get their act right. They're coming up against the City of Osaka, who haven't been scoring a lot of goals lately. I think they win by 1-0. They're finding it hard to get goals, and the pressure of playing at Woodland Stadium, I think, to me, it's sometimes too much for these City of Osaka players. But they need to get the result today if they are going to stand any chance of being promoted at the end of the season.
Let's look, when we talk of the Eden League, we mean that those are teams that are fighting for promotion. That's in the MTN Super League. But when we look at the Super League, it's hot. As we alluded earlier, where Angolapson said, if Red Arrows loses this time, they will lose it themselves. They will have themselves to blame. And when we look at the games that we have played, Angolapson, that's last week. Let me start with the same game that Augustine is saying you lost your phone. We had
He likes joking.
We had Green Buffaloes, Angolapson hosting Red Arrows, and we saw the Mighty Red Arrows beating Green Buffaloes. It was an army debut for me. Was this the result that you expected?
Well, I expected the Green Buffaloes to put up a fight, a very, very courageous fight against a team that is in form. This is a team that we dwelled on last week with Augustine, talking about their last win, which was recorded in November. And I think they've gone 9 games without a win. And in that game, I thought the issues of defense forces, the game pitting 2 defense forces together, the other one who has suffered for 8 games without a win would have been more brave and more courageous to stop the runaway league leaders. But the runaway league leaders proved beyond reasonable doubt in my heart that the trophy is heading to Nkoloma Stadium. So for me, it was disappointing, according to the way you are asking. It was a disappointing result for me, because I expected Green Buffaloes to at least put up a fight. Of course they did. For them to lose by 3-2, yeah, it was a good fight. But I think a good fight without a point is nothing. It counts for nothing.
Let's look at the person who was on the score sheet, Augustine, George Simbayamba having a brace. I think it was something that even shocked you.
Yeah, I think
veterans in Bayern.
Look at Red Arrows now, they're spreading the goals, because that has been always the difficult part when it comes to Red Arrows scoring goals. But you can see now they've got Joseph Piri, Ricky Banda, and James Chamanga, they're getting the goals. And now we're seeing midfielders like Simbayamba chipping in with goals. I think it gives you enough confidence. I think the most disappointing from that performance, I think it's GBFC failing to beat the 10-man Red Arrows. I think Trezosh Bwaba being sent off in the 55th minute. They could have capitalized and beat Red Arrows. They were put in front by the young Gordon Mashata, a promising talent. It was his birthday, and it was sad that it had to end in defeat for him. Red Arrows showing that they're going to be in and around this title fight. They are not going to give up without a fight. They'll fight for their lives to try and win the league title. GBFC, they need to get their act right as soon as possible, because even when it comes to continental places, they lose out.
Just there, there's a display on our screen, Augustine, in terms of the other games that were played. An interesting fixture and corruption there that took a shock.
Well, for me, the game that was very disappointing on the day is Zanaco Football Club, and for them to go all the way to Kongola Blades to go and pick up 1 point.
They are draw masters.
Yeah, and I thought they will break the jinx, but they failed to break the jinx. And away from that, there's even a game which was played in midweek against Forest
Rangers.
Outside that fixture, outside those results we are seeing, they had a game on Wednesday against Forest Rangers, and they still maintained their status quo as draw masters. The same applies to Forest Rangers. They are victims of draws. I think they've gone 6 games without a win. And now, for our colleagues, Zanaco Football Club, I think danger is that
they've forgotten how to win.
Felix will do the job for them.
Let's wait and see. I think interestingly, Zanaco, they need to find the act right. I think they've brought in Lasakiala. He's returned 6 months. He was doing a 6 months leave at the bankers. But I think to me now, the question was, how do these administrators sign these contracts? I think to me, they signed Lasakiala, was it 1 year contract? Chitemweshi 1 year contract. So what happens if Chitemweshi is your outstanding player in doing this 1 year? He scores a lot of goals. Come the next season, he's scoring a lot of goals, and probably maybe you are top of the league. And then January.
By the way, Augustine, you've mentioned the name which is very interesting, Chitemweshi.
Yes.
In midweek against Forest Rangers, he was on the bench. Yes. On Wednesday. First half, he was on the bench. Second half, immediately at the start of the second half, he was introduced in the match. The man had 4 touches. 4 touches. Those 4 touches were not on the ball. Harassing defenders and committing fouls. Without playing any. Okay, he had one or two complete passes, I remember. 1 or 2. The man was taken off. He was on the field of play for 20 minutes.
And this is the guy that...
An issue of him and in the second half.
The one who used to come Buzimbere. I think to me,
so it's like
she's the guy they chased at the start of the season, and then you bring him in, and then you're gonna give him 20 minutes and then substitute him. It's a joke. I think my point was, what happens if he does very well at Zanaco during this 1 year, and then in January, meaning it will be in his hands to decide where he goes. Why do you leave so much power to a player? Why not sign him for 1 year, 6 months?
The morale of the player is very disappointing, and I'm sure he's when he was substituted, the man looked at the board there. He thought the number was not his. Then he was told, it's you who's supposed to go out. That was very, very disappointing, really. And
Bono Mape still can't score. He scored 1 goal, I think, in the season at Forest Rangers.
That's what we talked about even at the beginning of the season. This is a player.
And some Forest Rangers fans thought we were being harsh, but it's just being honest. I think we're being realistic. We know Bono Mape. What can he deliver? Nothing.
You know, as we look at the games that are being played today, because yesterday we had Nkwazi versus Prison Leopards and Corruption. Where we saw Nkwazi beating Prison Leopards, and we saw one Conrad Luchanga, who was once a golden future, a golden boy of our national team.
That boy scored a brilliant goal yesterday. A very, very brilliant goal, if you ask me. It was a very good header, which left the Nkwazi goalkeeper Muntanga on his feet, not even a dive. It was a beautiful header. But over and above that,
those are the games that Prison
Leopards didn't deserve to lose that game. They played some good game, and kudos to that boy Bernard Kumwenda. You know, I was watching that boy.
He's my favorite.
And the beauty about it is, Ayosa was seated right behind me, and he went for that boy's name. That boy, the goal he scored, he literally ran rings around 4 defenders. I think 1, 2, the third one, then he shot, and the ball went in. That boy played some good football yesterday. And I think for me, that was one of the best goals. And when he was substituted, I think 20 minutes before the end of the game, somewhere there. And he still maintained his status as man of the match. Having played 70 minutes, but you've been taken off, others are playing, but they still went for him. And I just said, okay, perfect call for the man of the match prize.
And if you can just have a display of the games that we have today, because they are displayed there. So those are the games that we have today, and an interesting fixture already is one that Uncle Rapson is saying, Red Arrows versus Kongola Blades, something that he feels like his money is on Kongola Blades. Augustine, what's your take on that?
I think yesterday at Ngoloma Stadium, Red Arrows held a press briefing, and the word that came from Benedict Chepeshi, Chisimbewe and Alassane Dia, consistently they are talking about we are not going to underrate Kongola Blades, because if you remember Corruption a couple of weeks ago, Red Arrows played a team in the relegation zone, which was Indeni and Ngoloma Stadium, and they struggled to break them down and they drew the game 0-0. Now they are playing against Kongola Blades, and Benedict Chepeshi was clear to say these guys who are going to come here, we had to break down the sitting and try to hit us on the counter, and we need to find ways of breaking their defense, and that's the mark of champions. Now champions need to find ways in games like this, because it's going to be very, very difficult. Kongola Blades have rediscovered a little bit of form. They've drawn against Zanaco, they've beaten Lusaka Dynamos, they've drawn against Nkwazi, so they are in that, they've got that feel good factor. They think that they have now hit the right path, and they will look at this game. If we can get a draw away at Ngoloma Stadium, it will be good for them come the end of the season. So it's going to be a very tricky game.
Uncle Rapson, you still stick to Kongola Blades?
For a very simple reason. If you ask me, Red Arrows is winning that game, but they shouldn't win it easily. I would like Kongola Blades to put up a fight. They've made quite some changes to their team. They've brought in a lot of players.
Experienced ones.
It should show today. And the reason is very simple. We do not want to have a league where there are 10 games to play and you've already declared. That's not fair. And that's why we need to put all our ammunition together and oppose these runaway league leaders in Red Arrows, so that we maintain the status quo of it could swing either way. Zesco United is coming up very well, of course, and the mighty Nkana Football Club. We are away in Chambishi.
Consistent now.
Yes, we are away in Chambishi, and you know those lads came and caused a lot of catastrophe at Nkana Stadium when they beat us by 1-0. So this afternoon it will be a tricky encounter. I think Nkana Football Club, they need to pick up pieces and just win that match. The biggest game for today, I think for me, the biggest game is Forest Rangers versus Lusaka Dynamos. A very, very depleted Lusaka Dynamos, if you ask me. Very worried, not sure.
As long as you have legs and you can run.
Not sure how many free agents they have signed during this, because the free agents can join the club anytime. Because we've seen a mass exodus of players from there. So my worry is, are they even going to make 18 players today? Because they started making 14 players, 15 players as far back as 3-4 weeks ago. So getting into this stage where now everybody else has completely left, we are yet to see. And this could be the break in the bad run for Forest Rangers, because they've been having draws throughout. And now, this is when I can comfortably say the player that you like talking about might have a second goal of the season today. It looks to be something that is manageable.
It's all pointing at Forest Rangers, really. I think it would be disappointing if they cannot get a result against a struggling Lusaka Dynamos. They promoted a couple of players from their youth system, Lusaka Dynamos, to play.
Promoted by default.
Yes, to just fulfill the fixtures in the
promotion.
Yes. If you look at the one game that will stand out for me is Buildicon versus Power Dynamo. Power Dynamo versus Buildicon at Davis Stadium. Power Dynamos, they seem to be they have hit a big win in the second round. They are finding it hard to win games. They need to win this game against a very, very tricky Buildicon side, because you do not know what to expect from Buildicon. Bobby Munonda has left. Will they be the same side? That remains to be seen. It will be answered after 90 minutes.
As we come to conclude the show, maybe if possibly if the fixture, the MTN Super League table is ready, maybe you can just have a display of how the table is coming up, because it's very important for people to know what we are really talking about. So that's the table, which is Uncle Rapson. There you have it. Red Arrows, the runaway log leaders.
Of course. And they look very determined. This is one team that has been banging in goals, and I think if there's a team that is worrying the sponsors, it's Red Arrows, because they have to be preparing, winning bonuses week in, week out. So there are some teams that suffer that when they lose, even the sponsors feel nice that they're not going to spend much. But I think Red Arrows is on the positive trajectory, and you can see that they've been very, very consistent. They are pushing away teams on their own. And Zesco United, against odds, at some point we had Numba Mamba's head was almost being thrown on the chopping board, but there they are second on the log, and they are pushing. They have a very, very tricky game against Kafiwe Celtic this afternoon. Very, very tricky encounter for them. Green Eagles, I need to end on Ghana Football Club. Games played 21 and they're on 33. So this afternoon we'll catch up and go to 36 and probably drop Green Eagles. We are leapfrogging into third position this afternoon.
Interesting enough, Nkwazi managed to get a victory against Prison Leopards. It revives their chances of qualifying for continental football. They had gone on a very, very poor run, Nkwazi Football Club. They are trying to get their act right. They have signed Sydney Peary from Kawa Warriors, who is going to provide cover in the centre-back areas for them.
Due to time, maybe just a quick one on the comments that we have on Facebook. We've got one Mubukwanu gift who is going for Mosara. We've got Martin Kanyembo is just saying okay. We've got Moses Mangisha Mwanafara also, meaning he's going for the Egyptians. We've got one Patrick Soko, Mr. Patrick Soko, thanks for watching. He's going for Senegal will win. And we've got Dorinda Simubali Mila, who is asking what time the game is. The final game is being played tomorrow. That's at 21 hours East. Is it Central African time? We've got Simubukwanu no gift or gosa. These are some of the comments that we have on our Facebook page. But before we end the show, just your final remarks and Gorapson in 30 seconds.
Well, let's go and give the lads all the support out there who are watching soccer, and I think we've got mouth-watering fixtures this weekend, and we have a variety of choices. There's a double-header at Woodland Stadium, Eden University. There's a double-header at Nkoloma Stadium. So let's go in numbers and support the lads. And to our dear viewers who've been with us during the course of the show, I would like to say thank you very much for watching our show, and we will be back with you next week at the same time.
Augustine.
I think my closing remarks are, I think congratulations to Edward Chilufya for making the move from Sweden to Midtjylland. I think that's the right step in terms of Zambian football, and we just look forward to exciting games in the Super League this afternoon. And I would like to thank all the viewers out there that tuned in to watch our show. We appreciate your efforts, and would like to thank the entire production team for making this possible.
And as we come to the end of the show, like Augustine and Dango Rapson have said, we give all the glory and honor to the Lord, and we thank Pastor Moses and Victoria Chilua for giving us this platform to give you nothing but the best in terms of sports. For now, we head to cover the Camnet Soccer Academy that played their first game last week, Saturday, and they managed to win. So today they are playing their second game. That's at Kalingalinga grounds. So we are going to cover that, and then at 13 we dispatch Ango Rapson heading Woodlands, and Augustine and I heading somewhere else to cover the games that are being played today. On behalf of the whole entire production team, Isaac Chifita upstairs, not forgetting Elijah, who is not with us today because he's going to cover something. Stay glued to Camnet TV because Amazing Katamanda is coming on your screens with the weekly gospel show. We're out. See you next week.